So thank you so much, Chris. I'm so honored to introduce Dr. Sekou today. We are also happy to have Dr. Sheree Sekou back for leadership again this year. At last year's summit, Dr. Sekou led a section on leading yourself to be the change you seek. Dr. Sekou is a leadership and learning consultant, international facilitator, and positive change catalyst. Through courses, speaking, coachings, and her book, What a Difference a Change Makes, Dr. Sekou supports leaders and entrepreneurs who want to thrive through change, lead themselves, and live a life they truly treasure. Her expertise comes not only from her education and work experiences, but from a life of courageously leaping forwards toward a better one. Dr. Sekou feels the fields and does it anyway. By leading through example, she helps her client do the same. A fun fact about Dr. Sekou is she is a closet reality show junkie. Let me welcome Dr. Sekou, and our topics today is try how to stand in your power and take ownership of your goal. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So Chia, I see a couple of people saying they love the Be Brave shirt. If you remind me, I'll say more about the Be Brave shirt a little bit later on in the session. But so Chia, thank you so very much for the very warm welcome. First of all, greetings everyone and happy new year to everyone in the room. I thought about the session and our time together, and all I could think about is that there's no place I would rather be at the top of my new year than right here with you, with Barbara. Hi, Barbara, with Grace, so Chia and Hannah and everyone in the room talking about how to stand in our power and take ownership of your goals. So in the spirit of celebration, I always like to start off everything with celebration, even if it's not just the new year. Let's start with celebrating first, Barbara, and all the hard work you've done to get She Can where it is today. When I first learned that She Can started off with a chance meeting, right? And then a bold request and ended up in this unbelievable dream, my mind was blown. So I always see She Can as an exercise in ability. So thank you for your leadership. I appreciate you and thank you for your work and all that you've done. I also want to celebrate all of the scholars in the house, whether it's your first year or your fourth year. I want to celebrate you. Those who are taking the big leap and you're here starting your journey, those of you who are in between, and those of you who don't have much longer to finish. I celebrate you. I'm glad you're here today and looking forward to getting to know you better. And last but not least, certainly, I want to celebrate all those folks who are behind the scenes working away, Hannah and Grace and Madison, all of the donors, all of the mentors, all the volunteers, there's so many people that make She Can what it is. And I just want to acknowledge you. I know you're working behind the scenes and sometimes you may not get noticed, but I want to acknowledge your leadership as well. And again, I'm so glad to be here with you today so we can talk about this aspect of driving so you can be empowered and better own your goals and dream. And Sushia did an excellent job of my introduction. So thank you again, Sushia. But a little bit more about me. I'm Dr. Sheree Sekou, and I am a leadership consultant and coach. And for the past 16 years, I've been designing and delivering learning programs for leaders and learners all over the globe at various levels. And so for the past 16 years, I've been working in leadership, but about 7 years ago, I made a big decision to leave out of or lean out of full-time corporate work and do my own consulting. So I have some wonderful partners in different industries, corporations, nonprofits, educational institutions, and I partner with them to help them design their own learning programs that catalyze change. I'm also the author of a book called What a Difference a Change Makes. So I can officially say I wrote one of the books on change. Change is a very important topic to me. I spoke with you all about it last year and glad to talk about it from a different perspective as it relates to goal setting today. A little bit about who I help, and you'll see that second area there in the slide. I help leaders and learners elevate their competency and capacity to drive thrive through change. And what that means is that no matter where I go, whether it's here with you all as She Can or Fortune 100 and 500 company, one of the only constants is what? Anyone who was in my session last year would know. Let's see in the chat, what's the only thing constant and working in life? Who thinks they know? Yeah, 80 says change. Kara says change. So does Sithong. Yes, change. But we human beings are creatures of what? Here's the challenging part about this. Barbara's going, habit, absolutely. So when I was working and I seeing this big need, that it wasn't that people didn't know what to do, they just had a lot of struggles pivoting and adjusting when change, when they were in the face of change. So that is where my passion lies. Fun fact about me, other than what Sushia mentioned earlier, yes, I am a closet reality show junkie, so we can talk about that whenever you all want. But also I have a serious wanderlust. About 14 years ago, I married my husband, the other Dr. Sekou. His name is Malik Sekou. But about 20 years ago, I moved to the U.S. Virgin Islands sight unseen. That's when I was traveling like crazy. Little did I know I'd meet my husband and do some wonderful work there. And we now live in Pearland, Texas, which is right outside of Houston, and also in St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And a little bit more about some of the work I do. I want to say that I love my work. I know tomorrow you're going to be talking about passion. This first image has to do with my passion or my purpose. This is me speaking in person before COVID. Now most of my speaking and teaching occurs virtually because we've had to pivot like you all, like so many people have. But definitely the work that I do comes from my heart and soul, and I love that. You'll see the middle picture of me doing who recognizes what that is? Let's see it in the chat. If you recognize the symbol that I'm making here on that middle picture, let's see that in the chat. Equal campaign, that's it, Gracie. The equal for equal sign, Grace. That's exactly what it's about. It's another passion, making sure that women definitely and people from diverse backgrounds are treated equally, and I'm very passionate about that. And then the third picture is about a catapult of mine. If you were in my session last year, I talked about going through a pretty major fire. Actually, we lost everything. Everything that wasn't in my car at the time was lost in this fire. So going through the fire, navigating through a lot of different challenges is what's helped me to speak on some of the things I'm going to talk to you about and work with a lot of the leaders that I work with all over the globe. And before I get into the topic, I just want to say that just like I'm working in my passion and my purpose, we've all been in catapults, and those are those challenging moments that we get thrust into change, or something happens to throw us off of our goals, or before we know it, we thought we're making good progress, and then another Omicron variant comes up, or something else happens in our family that kind of pushes us back. Even when that happens, it is possible for us to begin again. It is possible for us to be in community like we are today, hear from one another, share our experiences so we can encourage each other to move forward. So as it relates to setting your goals and seeing them to fruition, one of the big things I'm going to lean into today are the importance of self-leadership, and that's you being able to lead yourselves even when your mentors aren't around, even when it's just you in the room trying to do it yourself, and also the importance of resilience. And we'll get into that a little bit later on in the session. So in terms of what we want to talk about, and a couple things you're going to learn during our time together, it's based on something I know for sure, right? What I know for sure is that whenever I've decided to do a big, bold goal, sometimes it's not even a big, bold goal. It may be a brilliant micro goal, but something that's very important. It has always required change. And I believe the same is true for all of us, whether that's successfully completing your degree program, deciding to relocate, starting a new job, pursuing a new career interest, even loving ourselves more and taking better care of ourselves. It means that something or someone has to change. And for those of you in the room, I know who you are, get ready to raise your hand if this is you. If you hold a powerfully new and expansive vision for your life, your world, your nation, raise your hand. Raise your hand. If the goals that you have for yourself, for your life, for the folks around you. I see some hands raised. I see some virtual ones. Thank you, Michelle. I see some physical ones. It's big. It means that something, thank you, Jill. I see you, Myra, as well. It means that something is going to have to change. And sometimes it's better to focus that in on ourselves. So I'm going to be talking about some processes that can help you achieve your goals. But at the end of the day, know that it's all related to you, your ability to lead yourself and your ability to be agile in the face of change. And so a couple of things I want to talk about today is those 5 keys. That's what D.R.I.V.E stands for. It's the 5 keys to setting goals, and not just setting them, but seeing them to fruition. That's the first thing you'll learn. The second thing is I'm going to share with you some simple yet very powerful decision-making strategies for dealing with some of the forks in the road. When we're out and about and embarking on our journey and our goals, things can get in the way. So I'm going to give you some simple tools you can pull out of your tool chest to use at point of need. And last, but certainly not least, I'm going to talk to you about some rituals and practices that can help you overcome some of the biggest things that get in the way of us achieving our goals. You'll see some of those in there. We'll talk about planning fallacy, procrastination, and all of these other roadblocks that can stop us from getting successful. And so before we get into the actual 5 keys, I do want to hear from you all. Get ready to respond in the chat or raise your hand and I'll ask you to come off mute. Tell me what you know now, or what's working well for you now as it relates to goal setting. So I just want to take a pulse. Share a little bit with me in chat. What do you know now, or what's working well for you now as it relates to goal setting? I always like to start from the known, and then we'll get into some of the new and the unknown. So think about what's working now. You all wouldn't be here if you weren't having success. So there's some good things that are working good. Phyllis is saying, don't have too many. Phyllis talks about something that we talk about in corporate called the Pareto principle, which means it's the critical few instead of the tons, right? So many that we can't handle. Good one, Phyllis. Thank you for that. Grace says, making sure you give it a deadline or a timeline. What gets measured gets done. Grace is absolutely right. We've got to make sure there's some timeline in this as well. Caroline adds here, writing it down, breaking it down into steps. Caroline, I couldn't agree with you more. A lot of people say, I can just hold my goals in my head and hold them in my heart and everything will work out. You know what? It may work out, but I'm going to encourage you to write it all down. You don't have to have a fancy spreadsheet. You can put it on your iPhone or your smartphone, but you got to have it in writing so you can go back to it every once in a while. Heidi says, make it measurable. Ooh, I love it. You guys are going exactly where I want to go. I'm coming back to you, Heidi. Tarly says, be realistic. I'm coming back to you as well. Fantastic. Sitong says, setting goals and revisit them every so often. So I'm glad you mentioned that not only is it important to set them, like many people do this time of year, but hey, how close did we get to that goal in February? How about second quarter? How about third quarter? Are our eyes still on that prize of the goal? Great advice there. Christiane says setting the steps as well. So not only do we have a broader goal here, but there are all these incremental steps that help us to eventually get there. Awesome. Myra says the ultimate desire to do. Oh, the ultimate desire to do. Myra, would you mind popping off mute? Just expand on that a little bit. I want to make sure I understand what you mean by the ultimate desire to do.
Yes. The thing about goals and things we do in our lives, they don't just come about from the sky. But as long as we have the strong desire or the intense desire to do it, we can definitely do it.
Myra, that gave me a little chill. I got a little goosebump over here because that strong, deep desire you're talking about is what's going to be the fuel for you to drive. I'm so glad you mentioned that because I want you to all to think about what Myra said there, because when you're driving along and trying to accomplish your goals, we can feel like we're running out of gas, right? We can go over some road bumps and things like that, but that deep desire is our fuel to keep going. Very good one. And Michelle says, getting the motivation. I hope I'm going to help with the motivation for you all today. Ria says, having someone, a friend, someone to hold me accountable. It can be a colleague, it can be a friend, it can be a mentor, it can be someone that you are colleagues with, just to keep you on track. Nick says, ask for help and some advice for mentors. I love it. Pick a point from there and be consistent. I promise I'm coming back to that one. 80 says, clarity, be specific. We're going to come back to that. Make sure you accomplish them. Why are we doing all this, right, Jill? If there's not a way that we can at the end celebrate, right? And Theory says purposeful and measurable. You all nailed it. Senate says know when to give yourself a break, but don't stop. I'm coming back to the break today before we end. You all have nailed it. Let's talk about this. Some of you all mentioned this already, this idea of SMART goals. Because before we talk about DRIVE, there's some wonderful things that most of you all are likely familiar with already in terms of best practices in goal setting. The main one is to make sure your goals are SMART. Some of you already came up with this answer, and Cece says, don't forget to make sure we review our progress. Absolutely. So what is the S in? Well, actually, I'll give you the answer to S because we had someone who already mentioned it, and that was specific, right? Yeah, Grace says, yay, SMART goals. Hope you all remember this. The S stands for specific, right? What does the M stand for? What does the M stand for? Measurable. Thank you, Ria. What does the A stand for in the SMART goal tool? You're welcome to take it again. Achievable or attainable, yes. If you do research on SMART goals, at one time it was attainable, at one time it was achievable, as long as it means that this is something you can actually get, you can actually achieve based on the goal that you lay out. Fantastic. Thank you, Rosie and Sitong and Ria. And how about the R? This is one that I've seen also have two different meanings here. Yes, realistic, says Rosie, realistic, relevant. Yes, I've seen both, so Chia's right. I've heard people say realistic. I've heard other people say relevant. What we mean here by SMART goals is that R is that this is something that has to be relevant to where you're going and your ultimate goals in life, and realistic in terms of your ability to make it happen, right? Last but not least stands for what? The T. Time-bound, time-based, time, absolutely. Thank you all, you nailed that part. So here's what I want you to know about SMART goals. If you're taking notes now, please write down that SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, and realistic and time-bound, or any of the words you saw here also work, because we just want to make sure that as you're laying out your goals, it fits this base criteria. So if you think of SMART goals, this is a tool and strategy for you to write out your goals in a succinct way so you can have it there. Now, you might have multiple SMART goals that you're working towards each year. I have multiple that I work on. Some of them are personal, some of them are business related, some of them are social. I have all different ones, but by following the SMART criteria, you'll make sure that at least you've written a good goal. Now, SMART criteria is really about the what, right? The goal that you're trying to achieve, making sure that it fits all of this criteria. But the DRIVE formula that I want to talk to you about today tells us more about the how, tells us more about the how. So when we think about the how as it relates to goal setting, we're talking about the how will you all as leaders stand in your power to take ownership of those SMART goals that you create. And in order to lead yourself and be the change makers you want to be, you've got to be willing to drive. And drive, for the purposes of our time together, is determine your destination, recognize the signs and symbols, invest in yourself, venture out of your comfort zones, and enjoy the journey. And before we begin, I mentioned that one thing I wanted to lead with is that you all truly step in your power to own your goals. And the reason I say that is because too often there are folks who will go out and set powerful goals, but they'll depend on other people to really own their own individual goals. Now, you might have people to help you. You might have accountability partners. You're going to have mentors to support you. You're going to have friends and colleagues, personal and professional support you. But at the end of the day, your responsibility for achieving your goal rests on your ability to own it and have that passion that Meyer mentioned earlier. Now, I want you to answer this question in the chat, just a couple people. Why do you think it's your responsibility to own your own goals? I want you to think about some of the things you came here to do at She Can. And I want you to think about, why is it your responsibility and not someone else's? Maybe not, why isn't it your parents' responsibility, or your mentor's responsibility, or your professor's responsibility to own your personal and professional goals? Even for those people who are married like me, why isn't it my husband's responsibility to own my goals? To own my goals. Who wants to weigh in on this one? You can come off mute, or you can add your thoughts in the chat. Yes, Michelle.
So even if you have all the support you need and all the needs and everything, if you don't feel responsible or you don't feel motivated to, achieve that goal, it's still not going to work. So everything drives back to you.
You're absolutely right, Michelle. I'm going to give Michelle a round of applause. There we go. I can find my reactions here on my panel. You're absolutely right. At the end and the beginning of the day, it all falls back to you. And it's never going to be as important to another person as it should be for you. So Michelle nailed that. Senate said, you know what works best for you. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Because even though people are going to give you advice, they're going to bring in a lot of positive energy to help you achieve your goals. At the end of the day, only you are going to be able to determine what works best. And Husan says it's because we are the owner, right, of our own goals. It's important for you and to you. It can't be more important than anyone else than it is to you. So here's the good news about this. Here's the good news about this. The good news is that you get to own your goals. You're driving, so you're in the driver's seat, so you get to do it your way, right? The other side of this is that you don't have to do it alone. So while I'm telling you it's your responsibility, you can lean into the fact that you've got She Can, you've got mentors, you've got people in your community rooting for you, people outside, volunteers, you've got people on your campus rooting for you as well, to help you, to give you the courage and the motivation to move forward when you're not feeling it yourself. So while it's you own the responsibility, you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to do it alone. So that's the good part of this. Let's start with the first D. Let's start with our first key, which is determine your destination. Now, what I want you to know about the first D of determining your destination is that many people believe that because they have a SMART goal, they automatically know how they're going to get it done. And that's why I said SMART goals are just the beginning. You've got to be able to determine your ultimate destination so you'll understand what your ultimate goal really is. So perhaps some of you are finishing up your school and you're thinking about creating a new business venture. Maybe some of you want to publish your first book or write a screenplay. Determining your destination is for any leader who is ready and willing to get in gear and get going on a new project, a business idea, or a personal professional goal. Now, raise your hand if you are multi-passionate. I'm going to inch my hand up. Here's my reactions here. I don't know if this, here it is. Raise your hand if you're multi-passionate. Multi-passionate means is that you've got some goals, but there are a lot of things you like to do. There are a lot of things you enjoy doing. I'm seeing the hands pop up there. I see Davina and Barbara going, yeah, that's me. Yeah, I want to say this. First of all, my multi-passionate leaders, I see you, I am you. There's nothing wrong with being multi-passionate. But what's most important is that we make sure that in juggling all these passions, we choose one or two to move forward with and give it time. Give it time and space to grow versus going here, then going there and going there and switching tomorrow. And so that's one thing we have to be careful and mindful of. Now, another thing about this determine your destination. A couple things I want you to consider. They're here on the screen. I want you to consider where you are now versus where you ultimately want to be. And for those folks who are multi-passionate, I want you to ask yourself, instead of looking at the full map and the whole journey, because the journey could be 4 years, 3 years, 1 year, I want you to think about what's your best next step. Not the whole journey, not the whole thing, but what is the best next step that I can do to get myself from where I am now, my current location, to where I ultimately want to go, which is my destination. If you can get crystal clear on where you are now, and I want you to be gentle with yourself. You learned about empathy yesterday, right? Show empathy and care for yourself. Don't compare yourself to anyone because we're all different, right? And so just think about, here's where I am, here's where I want to be. I'm going to get here, but these are the brilliant micro goals that I can set in between that will get me to my ultimate big, bold goal. Okay. So that's what determine your destination is all about. By doing that, it can give you the momentum to give you that incremental progress to move forward towards your ultimate goal and dream. That's determine your destination. And just one other note about determining your destination, and that is one of the most empowering things, because today is all about empowerment. One of the most empowering things you can do to lead yourself is decide. That's decide to tackle your goals. Decide to move to the US for this bold dream with She Can. Decide to pursue something a little bit different than your friends, your family, colleagues. That's your goal. So that decision is what I mean by self-leadership. And that's what's within you to decide for yourself. If you're multi-passionate, back to my friends again there, decide a good place to begin. Decide a good place to begin and move from there. And remember, you're in the driver's seat. So that's our D in our drive. Now let's talk about the second key. Second key is all about recognizing the signs and symbols. Now, here's the thing. Get ready to raise your hand if this has ever happened to you. And you'll find the raised hand. If you got your black Zoom toolbar open, you should see a reaction. You may find it there, or you can raise your physical hand. Now, here's my question. Have you ever finally summoned the courage to make a decision, to get ready to move forward on a goal, and then question whether you made the right decision right after you did it? Give a raised hand thumbs up if you've done this. I'm going to raise my hand as well. I'm glad to know I am not alone. I am not alone. Thank goodness I'm not. Great to see those other hands here. Now, I don't know about you. I don't know about you, but I have yet to make a decision that didn't have an accompanying sign or a gentle nudge from not my GPS, but my emotional guidance system, my EGS, right? My emotional guidance system. That's something that we all have. It's that gentle feeling or nudge you feel inside that's letting you know, hey, don't do that. Don't go in that direction. Or you know what? That is for you. Yes, it's a little tough, but this is for you. And so as it relates to this journey of achieving your goals and stepping into your power, it's important to recognize the signs and symbols that confirm you are indeed headed in the right or best direction. Now, when you can do this, it allows you to move out of the head-based decisions, because we do a lot of that with SMART goals and making sure it's measurable and timely and all that. This is more of a heart decision. This is more of a heart response, right? And so I want to talk to you a little bit more about that. I know yesterday you also talked about mindfulness. What I love about the practice of mindfulness and why it's so important for me is that taking time to think and contemplate will help you open yourself up to recognize the the messages that are coming from within, and even those on the outside or around you, right? So a couple of things to consider as it relates to the recognizing signs and symbols. You'll see them here. First, be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for affirmation and confirmation that you're headed in the right direction. That's number one. The second thing is if you're doing something that is related to business, right? Or a project you'd like to do to earn money, make sure you're on the lookout for the intersection between what you love to do and the demand in the marketplace. And what I mean by that is, I am a firm believer in earning a good living at doing what I love. Is there anyone else who agrees with me? Just give me a raised hand. If you think that we should be able to earn a living doing what we love. I've got one raised hand. There's two. Good. Fantastic. That's right. We all should be able to do work that we love, and earn a good living doing so, right? And so this is important. So one technique that you want to be on the lookout for is think of the things that you really, really love to do and you're really good at, and the current demand of the marketplace, the current demand in your nation, which I know a lot of you all are doing this already. And that could be a good sweet spot of where to begin. And then here's the third one. And I know you don't hear this very much when we're talking about goal setting. And that is to tune into your intuition. And that is your inner guide. That's your inner guide. And what I want to say to you leaders about your inner guide is this. There are times when your inner guide is going to be the most effective way to move forward. And people may not understand why you made the choice. They may not understand your reasoning. Those messages are not meant for them. They're meant for you. And so there'll be times when you're trying to determine, hey, am I on the right path? Is this the best way to move forward? You might have to pause, leave time for contemplation and meditation so you can ask for a sign and wait for that confirmation. And one quote, I don't know if you're familiar with Denise Lynn. I love her work. And she says, in every moment, the universe is whispering to you. You're constantly surrounded by signs and coincidences and synchronicities, all aimed at propelling you in the dream of your destiny. And I want you to know that for you to be here today, I'm sure it was tough, but there were some things that let you know, let me go out for that can. Let me put my name in the hat. Let me put myself out there, even though I'm a little shy. Let me move to the city and state that country I've never been to, all so that you can live your big, bold dreams. So if you're wondering or if you need confirmation, stay open to receiving that. You'll be surprised what you'll receive, because there's always a sign. Don't be shy about tuning in versus looking out for that sign. Keep your antennas up. Keep your view unobstructed. When you do this, you will open yourself to receive a confirmation on your direction, right? And so once you've determined your destination and you've recognized some of the signs and symbols, you feel surer, you feel more confident, and now it's time to go to the next key as it relates to achieving your goals. And that is investing in yourself. That is investing in yourself. You know what? I hope you don't mind. Let me back up one and just tell a little bit of a story as it relates to recognizing the signs and symbols. I was a bit of a late bloomer as it relates to school, especially deciding to go to graduate program. And I spent a year looking into programs, trying to decide, should I go? Does it make sense? And at the time, I was a newlywed and I was traveling a lot for work, but I was living on St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And I surveyed a lot of choices for doctoral programs. And the closest one to our island was New York, the one that, well, Puerto Rico, but the one that had the emphasis in adult learning. The things that were important to me were in New York. And so I investigated that program, but something just didn't feel right. And then I found out about a program in the University of San Francisco. And this program was in my area of emphasis. It was a cohort, which meant we met every other week for 3 years for our coursework. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, how am I going to be able to do this? This is a 13-hour commute one way every other week from St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands to University of San Francisco. But after I thought about it, talked it over with my husband, and really asked myself, where do I have the best chance of success? It happened to have been in University of San Francisco. So we set upon a goal and to achieve, which was to commute every other week for 3 years to the University of San Francisco from St. Thomas. And I will tell you that it wasn't easy, but I'm convinced that that was the place I needed to be able to have the support, because I had lived there before. If I was sick or something like that, people could see about me. And that's why I chose that over the closer option. So a lot of times what we choose and what may seem odd for someone else, we've got to know what's right for ourselves and move forward on that. So just a little bit of thought here to keep it in context. Yes, Don, I love it. Oh, we've got to meet. Oh my gosh, we got to meet. I'm a proud USF alumni for sure. And then invest in yourself. Now, let's get to the I. Let's get to the I. Quick story about investing. It took me a little bit of time, I'll just say, to understand the true power of investing in myself. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this last year or earlier, but I was a little bit even on the fence in terms of going to grad school. I mentioned I had a fire. It was a tough time for me financially. I wasn't sure that I could afford the investment. Sure if I had the mental agility and capacity to be able to handle it. And I remember talking to a mentor of mine and a close friend about it. And I told her all my things I was concerned about. And, I just didn't know if I could do it. And I didn't really have the money. And she leaned in to me, and I thought she was going to give me a hug and say, you know what, Sheree, I understand. Take your time. You don't have to do this. Guess what happened? She leaned in and she gave me a hug. And you know what she said? She said, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. She said, people spend money on hair, on cars, on homes, but when it comes to your education, you're not sure if you want to invest. And I just had a light bulb moment after that. And then she told me that she'd invested an enormous amount of money on her son's K through 12 tuition because she knew it was going to set him up for success. So this idea of supporting her education changes the nation. I am convinced that while education can't do everything, it can do so much to change your individual lives, your nation, and it involves investment. Part of it is money, part of it is time, part of it is energy. There's a lot, when we say invest, there are a lot of things that are meant underneath this idea of investment. And I'll give you an example. Personally, I've been able to leverage everything and more that I've learned from my doctoral program. So I'm so glad I did not talk myself out of it. That's number one. Number two, when I got serious about my consulting business, I invested in a mentorship to help elevate my business because I didn't learn some of those things in my doctoral program. My doctorate is in organizational leadership and digital media and learning, not business. So I had to engage some help for that. When I got serious about my own wellness, I invested in spiritual retreats. I went to the Deepak Chopra Institute. I've been to all kinds of things just to rest, practice mindfulness, to resource myself so I can come back and be a better leader. And the same is true for you. The same is true for you. So some things to consider here is, what knowledge or skills or support do you need to set yourself up for success? So when you look at your SMART goals and you look at what you're trying to achieve, I would say invest in the gap. So that part that you're not that great at or you need additional support with, that's where you should put the most time and effort in terms of investment. And then the next thing to consider is, are you willing and able to invest in yourself to get what you truly desire? That's another thing. And this is a little bit, shout out to them. Yes, shout out to them. I love it. And then another thing about investment. And whenever I say this, I'm not sure how people receive it, but this is something that I've definitely found to be true. And that is that passion is not the same as preparation. And what I mean by that is we need passion, right? We need passion to fuel ourselves, to keep us going along this journey. But passion is not a substitute for preparation. We've got to be able to get prepared academically, socially, economically, whatever that means, to be able to accomplish what you want to accomplish. So some of the things I recommend: pick up books on subject matter experts in the field. Spend time listening to your favorite podcast or watching videos. Some of you all have your own podcast, if memory serves me right. So create your own podcast if it's something you like to do to add to the knowledge economy. Download apps that help you with your mindfulness practice and your fitness regimen. I want to give a quick shout out to the Shine app. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Shine app. It is the only app that I'm aware of that's owned by women of color and for women of color. And I am a proud owner of it. I use it every week. And so that's just something you can do to make your goals come alive by investment. I think it's $30, $60, something like that. And never underestimate the value and the power of investment. That's what's most important. Remember, you're your greatest asset. Think about the gaps that you may have and think about investing money, time, energy, even volunteer time, if that's going to get you what you need. Fantastic. Oh, wonderful, Grace. Thanks for adding the Shine app in the chat. I love them. So that is our I. Now let's shift gears to our V, which is venture out of your comfort zone. Now, if you know me well, you know that I love adventure. And I dance to the own beat of my drum, but it wasn't always that way. And what I will say is that a lot of times when you're doing your own thing and you're being yourself and you're working your goals, it can be tempting to stay in things that are most comfortable. It can be tempting, right? So when you land in campus only, surrounding yourself with some of the friends you know and colleagues from SheCan, or some of the folks just in your degree program, or some of the folks who just might look like you or be like you. What's important in this venture out of your comfort zone is that you want to make sure that you stretch out and challenge yourself, even within your goals, to go a little bit outside of what you normally would do. So I'll give you some examples of this and some things to consider. The first is there, and that is, be sure that you don't allow your desire for comfort to be stronger than your desire for positive change. And so all of us want to be comfortable. We talked about that as part of that change and habitual things that we have, but make sure that your desire for comfort is not stronger than your desire to want to achieve your goals, even when they're uncomfortable. And you're on your own path, so definitely own it. I want you to know that your goals are yours, as we've mentioned. All of our paths might look different. So it's okay that they look different, and we can know that. Perhaps you decided to take a road that's completely different from those in your community and some of your friends. Some of you were called to go off the beaten path and take the road less traveled, and that's okay. And sometimes it can be tough to break away and go beyond that comfort zone. And so just make sure that if you feel yourself getting too comfortable, it might be a time to experiment and try some new things as it relates to this. And I want to share this other quote, and that's: life begins at the end of our comfort zone. So if you're feeling uncomfortable right now, for our freshmen, if you're feeling a little uncomfortable, just know that the change taking place in your life is the beginning, not an ending. Embrace that discomfort, use it to propel yourself to move forward, right? You'll be surprised, or you might be surprised what you will discover. And just one thing I mentioned here that I want to talk about as it relates to decision making. Now, you will be amazed at when you decide to go for one of your big, bold goals, even one of your brilliant micro goals. All of a sudden, all these other things will start coming your way. Bright, shiny objects, as we call them, going down a rabbit hole. You'll be shocked, like, hey, why did all this stuff come up the minute I get ready to pursue this goal? So just for you to have simplified decision making, it's going to seem very simple, but it's very powerful. When you're on your goal journey and someone comes up with a brand new idea or a brand new fun shiny object to take you off your goal. Simply ask yourself what you see on the screen. Is this on my way to where I ultimately maybe it'll take me a little longer to get my goal, but this is a wonderful thing that is on my way that's going to get me where I need to go? Or is it potentially in my way? Which means is if I divert and take this route, is it going to take me years to pick back up this dream or goal? And so no one really can answer this for you, but mentors are great sounding boards for thinking this through. Just know you're going to be hit with a lot of opportunity. And one way to lead yourself is to determine of the opportunities you're presented with, which ones are on your way to where you ultimately want to go versus which ones that could be not as of value to what you want to do and what you hope to accomplish. So that's the simplified decision making. And last but certainly not least, we are going to talk about the E, which is enjoy the journey. And this is actually my favorite, because when we take time to enjoy ourselves, we feel refueled. We feel like we can complete the journey, which is most important. And if you know me, I always find a way to have some fun, even if I'm accomplishing my goals. So I want you to think about ways in which you can have fun testing new ideas in the marketplace. If it's business, have fun by joining new social organizations, do some traveling when it's safe to do so or in safe ways. And I also want you to consider a couple things here. I mentioned patience and having a lot of grace for yourself during this process. The way to really enjoy this big goal that you all are achieving is to be kind and loving to yourself and those around you. That's number one. Be empathetic to yourself and your friends and family members who might be missing you and wondering, why is this big goal stopping us from being together? We need you here. We want you here. So be empathetic for those folks as well. And that second one, remember to take good care of yourself and find joy along the way. And I always add this quote in my talks, and it's anyone who's interested in making change in the world has to learn how to take care of herself, himself, or their selves. There's no change if we're not well. And that's the bottom line. And so I want to ask you in the chat, how do you refuel yourself now? When you feel like, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do anymore. I don't want to study anymore. I don't want to go to another meeting. How do you refuel yourself? I want you to flood the chat with best practices so we can learn and grow from one another on big things or small things, right, that we do to help refuel ourselves while we are navigating through our goals. I love this. Self-compassion, which is one of my favorites. Going on a hike, nothing like some good vitamin N, which is being out in nature, right, Grace? Barbara, get exercise. Yeah, Barbara's tripling that as well. The exercise, getting our endorphins moving. Michelle says meditation and self-care. I'm right here with you on that one. So she is sleeping and doing meditation. I actually love sleeping too. I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm a firm believer of getting appropriate rest makes me a better leader. Heidi says, keeping your eyes on the prize. That's a good one. Keep focused. But I also want to know how you take care of yourself when you get a little tired and you don't want to look at that prize anymore. It happens to me sometimes. Ria says, taking naps. I wish I was a napper. My husband's a napper. I love to get better at naps, but a good nap can help refresh. So I've heard, but I'm not really a napper, but I want to be. Caroline says cooking a healthy meal, which is fantastic. Taking care of ourselves inside and out. Oh, Alexa going surfing. I love it. Myra, pray and rest. Perfect formula for success. Jill says self-motivate, listen to music, get a little dance on. She can't always have a little party at the end of stuff. So I love that about the organization. Sophie says take a break and just reflect, just time for you. Theory says go on a walk, talk it out with a buddy. That's right, Phyllis. Have fun. Cece says yoga, mindfulness. Dean says laughing, seeing friends, watching a good comedy. Davina and says and Barbara say music, right? Dance it out. Rosie says cook food from home. Arian says take picture of nature. I love it. I love it. Sitong says listen to podcasts. I'm a podcast fan. Wander around, search for insects. I'm afraid of insects, but hey, if you like it, I love it. The sun says yay. You got, there we go. We got someone else who loves insects. Write it out, dear. I like that. Ria, see and pet some doggies. Nothing like animals to make ourselves feel better. And so I want to leave you before we're going to get ready to go in the breakout group. And in fact, I want us to do this now. Let me just go over this. This will take a minute. Then we're going to get ready to go into some breakout groups to talk about some commitments you can make beyond the session. So lastly, I want to talk about rituals and practices. This is the third of the 3 items I said we talk about today. If you need to take a screenshot of this, please take a picture of it so you can refer to this later. There are some rituals and practices. They're very easy. I like to keep things simple that can help you stay the course when things get tough. And one is that we want to steer clear of planning fallacy. If you've never heard of planning fallacy is when we set goals and objectives that are not attainable. They are not realistic. And then we beat ourselves up for not accomplishing them. We want to stay clear of that and make sure your goals are stretch, but not so stressful you can't think straight. We don't want that, right? We want you healthy and well. The second is get out of neutral and avoid procrastination. So if you know your peak times, this is productivity. When you wake up in the morning, is that when you're up and about and you want to study and you want to work, or you're a night owl like me? Decide what your peak times are, lean into so that you use those and work smarter, not harder. Rest for resilience, which is my favorite. Getting sufficient rest is critical for leaders of all levels. And love knows. Guess what a love no is? That's lovingly telling someone, no, I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm not going to be able to do that, but I will be able to do this. And that no will give you some room so you can have yes and say yes to your goals, to your dreams, the thing you want to do. Oh, good. And then Watana says, travel to new places. I love it. And so what I'd like for us to do now is just give you some time here. I'm just going to give you let's just take about 7 minutes or so to get into breakout groups and just talk through some of what you learned here in terms of the drive keys for setting goals and owning them and seeing them to fruition. Discuss any key takeaways, but only talk about things you're willing to apply today, from today on, not right this moment, but after you go through the sessions today. I don't want you to have so many things that I've talked about that you can't think of 1 or 2 things you want to implement right after you get through with this Leadership Academy, and then share your personal commitment to one of the rituals and practices. So just say a quick hello. I know you've been in breakout groups all day. Maybe we'll mix it up a little bit now so you can see. You may take a picture of this slide just to remind yourself of what you'll be covering in your breakout groups. The main thing is that you share one personal commitment to one of the rituals and practices, or one area that you want to improve to elevate your goal setting so you can see them to fruition. So I'm going to invite Grace to come on and get people ready from the breakout groups, and we'll see you back in about 6 or 7 minutes.
Great. I'm setting this up right now.
Yep, I think we're all set. So I'll send you into your breakout rooms now. You have about 7 minutes.
Hi,
Welcome
Michelle.
back. Some other folks will be back shortly, I think.
Yep. I can always tell which rooms are in deep conversation because they wait until the very last second to come back.
I do hope that you enjoyed your time discussing this. Welcome back, everyone. We got a couple more folks coming in. There we go. I see the numbers going up. Welcome back. Welcome back. And we would love if in the chat, if you wouldn't mind sharing some of your commitments. Those of you who feel comfortable to share, go ahead and share your commitments in the chat so we can see them. Can't end today without sharing this quote from Michelle Obama. And it's just that don't ever underestimate the importance you can have because history has shown us that courage can be contagious and hope can take on a life of its own. And I hope that you understand how important your dreams and goals are. I celebrate you again for your decision to be a part of She Can. For all of you, I'm so grateful to have spent this time at the top of year for you and with you. I'm looking at some of these, yes, lovingly saying no. I just love seeing some of the commitments that are coming in. Let's see those commitments going. And let's just take a very small, just a couple minutes for any questions, answers, and observations that I can provide. I still want to make sure you have time for your break between the next session, but